I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have the AEW Dynamite After Show. We're coming to you live from all across Southern California, where it's been moving and shaking. And have we got a show for you? We're going to talk about all the crazy stuff that went down. But before we get started, allow me to introduce my co-host for the evening. Ladies and gentlemen, typically he's in the producer booth. He's the king of the bing, bang, and boom. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Josh Alonzo.
Bam, 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 bam. Going for the knockout. Boom. What another great episode tonight. I mean, oh my goodness. There's like so many good things going on tonight. And then not to mention 2 great matches for the TNT title tournament right there.
It really was a good show. Lots of really good wrestling that went down. Let's also give a shout out to the
wild. So I heard.
So you heard right. You heard right. It was a good show. It was a fantastic show. Obviously, as always, we got stuff like Elite of the Week coming and all that good stuff. But let's get into overall thoughts. I'm going to start it. I don't care. I'm the host. Oh, but after I say I'm the host, I'm the host. I'm the benevolent host. I'm Fancy Jack Farmer.
By all means, Jack, get it going.
Right off the bat, I love Chris Jericho on commentary. He is so good. From the way he dresses in that really cool, sparkly blue jacket to the gloves he wears to be COVID friendly, being safe and entertaining. He just sets the stage for me. But Josh, how did you feel overall about the show?
I definitely do agree with Chris Jericho being on commentary. I love how he's analytical about the match itself and some of the little nuances of some of the wrestlers itself, but playing up to his character and adding up to that heel persona that he's doing. He will give the most backhanded compliments to a lot of these wrestlers, especially the Kenny Omega match. He was piping them up and everything, and then he just shot it back down. So Chris Jericho's commentary, amazing and hilarious with Tony Schiavone. And then overall, the matches were great. And I really loved the main event. Definitely had a lot of storyline going into it. So I'm excited to talk about it.
I love that you said the backhanded compliment, because I literally had that written in my notes during the Omega match. I loved how he said he's like, when I get into the ring with Kenny, I'm always nervous, even though I've beaten him every time, or something like that. He does such a good job of being the Chris Jericho that we all know and love, but also doing his duties as a commentator. I also love that he sounds like a fan. I mean, something that I think is, as wrestling fans we've watched for so long, you get these professionals who are so good about being professional on the microphone and relaying things and play-by-play and color commentary. But he sounds like he's excited, like he's having fun watching these matches. And I think that relates, especially now more than ever, with Jericho out there.
Definitely. So, I mean, you'll have certain wrestlers who become commentators, sometimes not the greatest and other times really the greatest. And I think Chris Jericho, if he does retire from wrestling, he should definitely consider going into commentary for wrestling.
Yeah, it'd be a slam dunk for him to go into commentary. Someone else who's tried their hand at commentary for AEW was Cody Rhodes. And we started AEW Dynamite with Cody Rhodes reporting from the Batcave. He's got his screens up and he's in his chair and it's all dark behind him. I'm sure Alfred was off, because he not only built up who he was in this tournament, but he built up the tournament as a whole and how important it is and all the different people in it. Did you like starting off AEW Dynamite this week with that segment? Did you like hearing from Cody?
I definitely did.
For Jake?
No, I definitely did. I mean, it's a great way to just pretty much hype up the tournament as well. I mean, last week we saw the first few rounds of the tournament itself, at least the first half of it. This week we saw the second half of the first round. So it's really cool just to really hype up that tournament and everything. I definitely did love the whole layout of it. You could definitely tell partially green screen, a little bit cheesy, but then it's fun. That's just how it is. You definitely do know that these guys are allowed to have that fun within their promos at times. And this definitely just shows that example right there.
I can't tell you why. I can't tell you the why it is this way, but when AEW does something that's a little cheesy or a little silly, for some reason, I say, it's okay, though. It works. It's fun. I don't judge them harshly. I'll be honest. If that happened on some other shows, I might go, come on, guys, this is silly. But for some reason, with AEW, I know it's biased. I know it's not fair, but I'm just going to say it. I feel like it's okay on AEW. It's just fun, right?
I think it definitely
biased.
I think it definitely lends that nature because they are the alternative. So of course, anything they do, there's going to be a lot of people that praise it because they definitely do know how to sell off being goofy without being a little bit too goofy, if that makes sense. So when they do something like this, or if they do something like anything that Broken Matt Hardy's going to do, it's going to be great because we know that there is at least some creative freedom into that, and they don't have to sound so forced to be funny or try to be goofy in that nature. So it's great.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think they also do a good job of layering the seriousness with it. Like everything Cody said was dead serious. It made every single competitor in that tournament seem like a legit threat to win, seemed like they had a reason to win, seemed like they had a necessity to win, particularly one Cody Rhodes, who I think is a favorite for a lot of people. But Cody wasn't the Rhodes that competed tonight. We had Dustin Rhodes versus Kip Sabian. Kip Sabian, by the way, on my watch, my stock watch, because I feel like he's got some good things coming. They added kind of midweek that Dustin Rhodes was going to retire if he couldn't win tonight. Before we get into the sort of the details of the match, they had a great promo building up to everything. I loved that Kip Sabian had this great line I just want to throw out there. He said, "I've not had my moment yet. This is my moment." And I thought that was a cool thing because it's true. He's the one guy in the tournament that doesn't really have anything yet in his career so far. How did you feel they did building? Did you like the retirement stip going into it? How did you feel about the build of this match?
So with this match, I definitely did love the retirement stipulation to it. It added that level of gravitas and a little more dramatic tone to it. Just so it's that we don't know if he's going to retire now, if he's going to retire later. This is definitely a way to just pretty much play up a little bit, not to just make it just a simple title tournament, but to add a little bit more depth and dimension to a lot of these participants within the tournament itself, especially with someone like Dustin Rhodes, who's been a veteran of wrestling for so many decades now. And then I think it was pretty cool that he's just like, hey, this is my last time to do something like this. He even mentioned it in that phone call where they played it again. They actually played it on YouTube originally, and then they showed it up on the broadcast as well, where he's just like, hey, might be my last march to do everything. This is pretty much the proudest I've ever been. I'm proud of it. You should be proud of it. And then he's pretty much saying that if he doesn't win tonight, he's going to be gone for good. And I think that definitely adds up the level of intensity for that match, because you find yourself rooting for a guy who I would say is underrated and often overlooked at times, especially from his time from WCW to WWE. He's been overlooked a lot, and we know he's a really naturally gifted wrestler. And to have that just to say, hey, this might be my last time, is pretty much just seeing, for all intents and purposes, the all-star quarterback who's 20 years who's a 20-year veteran into the league, and then either retires or leaves or anything like that. You just don't want to see that happen, but you kind of find yourself rooting for that person. So I think it's really great.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a great way to add a little bit more weight to it. I feel like going in, we kind of knew that Dustin was going to win. Spoiler alert, my bracket's still
undefeated.
Undefeated, perfect bracket. I feel like we kind of went in seeing this. It was interesting because when they were kind of building up some other things for Kip Sabian to do after this during the show, and they also had this stipulation of retirement. I was kind of thinking like they're kind of telegraphing a little bit that Kip's going to lose because they're sort of stacking the deck that way. But then it almost like they stacked it so much, it made me think, well, what if they're doing something a little fishy? What if they've got some shenanigans planned, some hijinks planned, which made the match a lot more interesting. Even though he came up short, I love this crew of Kip and Penelope Ford, though. So Dustin's going forward in the tournament. He's going to face Lance Archer. I believe they said next week, which poor Dustin. You would have been better off retiring, my friend.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like we're literally going to see the lamb go into the slaughter. I mean, the way they're building up Lance Archer, and with the whole thing that if he loses, he's going to retire. This is going to be his peripheral high moment, and then next week it's just going to be bad for him, unfortunately.
Wait,
but
did he say if he doesn't win the tournament, he's retiring, or just Kip? I thought it was just Kip.
I think it might be just Kip, but then I was kind of insinuating that if he doesn't win the tournament, he may retire. I mean, it's kind of like one of those open-ended type of things. We don't know how specific into this, like how specific the storyline might go, because it did seem that if he lost against Kip Sabian, okay, he's done. But what about if he wins? Does that carry on to the next round, or does that carry over to the whole tournament itself? I think if he loses next week, I think he'll be done.
Interesting. That's interesting. That would really be a feather in the multicolored cap of Lance Archer if he could put that, if he could do away with that. I did want to say, I thought Kip looked really smooth tonight. I thought the moment where Brandy and Penelope Ford went at it would have had a crowd popping super loud. I thought that was a really cool way for Brandy to kind of show some grit, show some toughness, take out Penelope Ford. And yeah, it was an interesting thing. We have more to talk about, I think, regarding Kip in a little bit. But before we do that, I want to take a moment to just thank everybody who's watching us and listening to us and on iTunes, and whether it be on Spotify, whether it be here on YouTube. You guys are so appreciated. And you guys make us the ESPN of TV talk. Got to get the catchphrase in there. Of course, as always, please do us a favor and hit the like button. It takes a second. Leave a comment, even if it's just to say, good job, guys, or even if it's just to say, Jack, we hate you. Your shirt doesn't work with TV because it's got the weird thing going on. I don't know if it's actually doing that, but these shirts sometimes make the weird wavy thing happen. It doesn't matter. Just put a comment in there, share it with your friends, leave a 5-star review. All of that goes a very long way in helping us to stay the ESPN of TV talk. So it's appreciated. Something else I appreciated, I just want to take a quick break before we go back into the next round of tournament matches. I appreciate the bubbly bunch. Oh, this is so funny. I love how there's no real agenda with it. It's just them being
it's
silly.
Just them just being them. I mean, it's perfect because we always see them being the villainous bunch, but then this villainous bunch happens to be just so funny and so goofy, and just like they like to pull punches on each other, and they definitely do like to make fun of each other, which is great, which definitely plays into the earlier thing that I mentioned earlier. A lot of these wrestlers are finally getting that chance to act goofy, and it really just shows off their personality to it, and it just makes it a little more relatable to them. So I think it's awesome right there, especially with the whole Brady Bunch aspect and Jake Hager doing his his push-up handstand, whatever that was. I'm just like, oh my goodness, I do that, my shoulders are gone.
Yeah, he, you know what, it's really big, because I think a lot of times groups like this, people go, oh, they're just thrown together. It's just people who are thrown together. But this shows that, they're actually kind of a cool, they're all buddies. They hang out, and you believe that they would hang out. Something I never liked about the NWO Wolfpack. That's right, I'm going to talk about the NWO Wolfpack. I didn't believe for a second that Lex Luger and Conan were friends. Maybe they are. They just didn't look like they hung out. I don't believe they hung out after the shows. But maybe they did. I don't know. I just didn't believe it. Where now I see these guys, and I'm like, yeah, I could totally see Ortiz and Jake Hager hanging out, because they're silly. Ortiz, by the way, possibly my favorite. Him talking to the Grinch was just great.
Just a creme de la creme.
But I also loved Jericho getting mad because Sammy Guevara showed him up on the dance moves.
I mean, it's just perfect. This is just pretty much just what the Inner Circle is. It's just a bunch of guys, like you said, just a bunch of guys that do hang out afterwards, and it's awesome.
Yeah, they didn't use the name TikTok though. They said Flim Flam, and I don't know. I'm a user of the phrase Flim Flam, so I loved it. I just like seeing it. I like the word Flim Flam. I like shenanigans. I like hijinks. I like dust ups. I like fisticuffs. I like
Flim Flam. I think this is a definite way. I'm not the law expert here. Roger's normally the law expert, so I definitely I would say he would agree with this, and just trying to, skew away from the name TikTok so they avoid some type of, legal infringement and whatnot. So who knows?
Yeah, the irony is I bet their flim flam ended up on TikTok, because that's just the way it goes. So that was fun. I want to get back to these matches, though, these ones that had the real kind of weight to them. We started the show, Darby Allin versus Sammy Guevara, and it was interesting. It started very similar to their Revolution match, but reversed. This time, instead of Darby Allin diving over the top rope, it was Sammy Guevara. And these guys, as always, just had a fantastic match. Josh, walk us through it.
I mean, as JR would say, it's such a barn burner, this match. Definitely did love the role reversal of it, where we saw at the Revolution pay-per-view, Darby Allin attacking Sammy Guevara prior to the match. This time we saw Sammy Guevara do the same thing as a one-upmanship. And, when I saw that happen, I'm just like, is Sammy Guevara going to win this match? Because he just literally annihilated him, especially the ladder spot right there. I thought it was going to be, okay, brings him into the ring, does a shooting star press, game over right there. But then I definitely did like the resiliency of Darby Allin coming back and getting the victory in this match. I mean, these two just, you can tell these two are going to be the future stars of AEW. Similar to, I believe it was Anissa or Roger that had mentioned it, that they have the similar rivalry to what Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock had in the WWF back in the day. These two are going to be pretty much the two pinnacle stars of that, and they're going to have a back and forth rivalry for years to come. So this is just the beginning of it, and if this is what they do now, I can't wait what they do later in the future.
Yeah, I really loved the build to it, the videos they showed. I thought that Sammy Guevara did a great job with his trash talk and his promo time. I like the mood that Darby Allin brings. I think Darby Allin is a mood. He's not a character. He's not a person. He's a mood. You see him and he's got a certain type of music. He's got his look and everything. I agree. I thought this match was great. That shot of Guevara coming off the top rope onto Allin when he was laid on the chair, so cool, and that looked like it hurt so bad. I love the taking off the shoe thing. The whole time Jericho was saying what I was feeling the whole time. So I was like, it's so weird to walk around with one shoe on, and I don't think he was talking about that. I was like, he's right. Yeah, it is weird to walk around with one shoe on. But Sammy made it work. Some gold lines from Jericho again. He had so many, but do you know what Suicida stands for? I don't.
I don't speak Spanish.
Or I don't know the phrasing for it. I'm sure Excalibur would know everything and how to explain it. But now he used to win with
of it being a pin. It's sort of similar to what they have called the knee bar or the knee lock, which is essentially hyperextending the knee going the opposite direction area. So that would definitely would hurt in a real life practical use for it. But I definitely do like it. I know he's used it once before and I love it. I love the move itself. It's definitely a unique way to get the pin. Definitely a way for them to crunch up an opponent and not to let them kick out so easily. And I think it's great. And plus the name itself, The Last Supper, I mean, that's a great name for a move right there.
Yeah, it fits in with their with his whole mood, as I said.
His aura.
I like it because he can hit it a bit faster than the coffin drop. I think the coffin drop is always going to be like the cool one, But I think sometimes it's nice to get those snappy wins, and it gives him a way to get a snappy win on somebody without having to climb up to the top rope and hit the coffin drop. By the way, you're kind of the AfterBuzz version of Taz. I love the way you break down these moves, and it makes me wince though. You saying like, "Oh yeah, your joint bends this way, so we're gonna bend it the other way."
And funny enough, he did have a move breakdown later on in the show itself with Kenny Omega's V-Trigger and Snapdragon.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Do you like that? I thought that was such a cool way to make those moves seem better.
I thought all you got to do is pop your hips, take it backwards, and then it hurts the guy right there. Trying to do my best Taz impression there, but obviously it's not so great.
No, it was great. It was great. From the Red Hook district, but yeah, like especially because as I was watching it, right, I tried to like put my mind in like if someone else was watching this, and I think of someone like Jessica who's new to wrestling and doesn't know much about someone like a Kenny Omega, or ideally other stars as they do this more, and to be like highlighted, oh yeah, this is his signature. These are his signature moves. These are the things I look for. So then when you watch him have a match later and you see that Snapdragon suplex or that V trigger, you're like, oh yeah, that's that cool move he does that Taz broke down. It's just a simple way to fill time, which is important right now, with not being able to have just stuff happening in the show, but also just explain things and open things up to us viewers so that we can watch it and go, oh yeah, that's a really cool move. I like that. That's a, or that's why I like Kenny Omega.
Do you think
whatnot.
they should continue this highlight series though? I think they should. What's your thought on that?
I agree. I think like I said, it's also like it makes people look good. It makes moves look more dangerous, and it also is just a cool way of presenting things instead of just watching matches. I think right now Kenny Omega is a good one to start it with, but I would love to see them go through and maybe do some other people that aren't as big of names so they can help get them elevated. So if you had like Stu Grayson of the Dark Order on there, right? Who we seem to see a lot, but due to the nature of how he's used, you don't really see his moves as often. So you don't really get to know who his moves are. But if you saw some of his moves that way, you'd go, oh yeah, that's that cool move he does. Oh, wow, he is a great wrestler. Because Stu Grayson's a phenomenal wrestler. He's so a part of the Dark Order. I think sometimes we don't think about him as much that way. If that makes sense.
No, totally.
Which, by the way, let's just jump into the Dark Order stuff since we brought that up. Brody Lee with a promo. I love these promos. I hear that they are making fun of Vince McMahon, and I don't know if it's true, but if they are, Vince McMahon was a great character before, and he apparently still is, because I loved this. What do you think about the promo video?
I thought it was definitely really cool. It's definitely super sinister the way they're presenting Brody Lee in this aspect. I mean, we knew from his time from the Independents and from his time in his WWE, he's a very opposing figure right there due to his like size and his nature and his moveset. He's got definitely a great moveset. Not a lot of people know that he can actually do a Hurricane Rana for a big guy. That's super impressive. And so I definitely
might be called it a Frankensteiner, but whatever.
Well, let's call it the Frankensteiner in this aspect right here. So he's definitely great at doing Frankensteiners. But to play up on that, it's definitely an awesome way to present him. I mean, we definitely did mention in the past when he debuted, he's being depicted as that smart monster, that methodical, just big guy who's just really just breaking you down just with his words, and he can also do it with his fists as well. So I think that was really cool. And the one thing I really did like about this promo is them recruiting someone who had a great collegiate history and everything, but due to an injury, missed out on the Heisman Trophy, felt like his life was going nowhere, sees the Dark Order advertisement, goes on it, signs up, has a meeting with Brody Lee. I think it's going to be great. Who the mystery person is, we don't know, and I definitely love to find out.
Yeah, I love that. I thought that little promo at the beginning of it was so powerful. Him, looking at his old accolades and how he got hurt and the girlfriend breaking up with him over the phone while he's drinking. It was a great way, because they've shown in the past the people who join, and they always make them look like, quote unquote losers, because like they're just lame, like they're not doing anything. Where this is a guy who was doing stuff, he was successful, he had all these attributes, but it didn't work out for him. And so it's like, wow, like it as creepy as it is to say, because they're a cult, it makes you like, yeah, even someone like me could join the Dark Order. Josh, even someone like you could join the Dark Order. Yeah, I thought it was great. He typed in, "I had the whole world in my hands." Now that was a clear reference
to his former family member there. So I think that was a nice little, I'm not sure if it was a jab. I think it was just a nice little nod, because I'm pretty sure despite everything that went on with him and Vince, I'm pretty sure he had a nice profound respect for everyone in the Wyatt family. So that's a nice little reference right there.
Yeah, I agree. And we are kind of running a long time. We were chatting the whole time, Josh. We're too chatty. Let me get through real quick. Matt Hardy had a promo. He re-emphasized his disdain for Chris Jericho and re-emphasized wanting to have an elite deletion match at the Hardy compound, which, come on, will print money once they do that. But he turned his attention a bit to Sammy Guevara, and we also saw some old V1 Matt Hardy How'd you like this promo? How are you liking Broken Matt Hardy and the addition of, I'll just say V1 Matt Hardy, but I guess whatever, normal Matt Hardy.
I think this was great. It's definitely playing up on that, just that split personality aspect of what Broken Matt Hardy is. He brings so many different characters into the universe, and it's just going to be great. And if they do the Elite the Deletion or whatever they're going to call it, I think it'll be great. And because of this, and the idea definitely popped into my head when she mentioned it, I think they are going to have an aspect of Broken Matt Hardy against someone, and then out of nowhere, you're going to see Version Matt Hardy against somebody else in that same spectrum of time or what so have you. So I think that'll be a great opportunity to do that.
You know, that would be I would love that, dude. That would be so great. If that's a Hardy concept.
Different Matt Hardys.
Fighting, and then Broken Matt Hardy gets thrown off of a building or something, and then normal Matt Hardy comes up out of nowhere and starts fighting. Or that would be fantastic. I am all in. Like I said, print money. But Sammy Guevara, as Matt called him, I wanted to make sure I shouted that out. I thought that was funny. Sammy Guevara. We also had a match, Orange Cassidy versus Jimmy Havoc. I like both these guys. Orange Cassidy versus Pac was one of my all-time favorite matches in as long as I can remember. I always say as long as I can remember because I never want to say it's one of my all-time favorites. But I smiled the whole time. It was so much fun. I guess I'm just going to – I know they don't want to give us a whole lot of Orange Cassidy because if you get too much of him, I think it's going to wear thin. But today it felt like maybe we need to see a little bit more of him because this match would have been fine, but in my head going into it and preparing all week, I was thinking about Pac versus Orange Cassidy. Mm-hmm. But this isn't a pay-per-view. This isn't Revolution. And so my expectations got a little bit off kilter. Do you think that's fair? Do you think this, how did you feel about this match in general? Did you like the match, I guess, before we start? I thought it was a fine match, but my perception was off.
No, I definitely like the match and everything, but I could agree with you in some aspect in saying that they need to add a different level of dimension to Orange Cassidy as far as just his matches and whatnot, because this is a fine match and everything, but it's just, I felt it was a little too similar to what we saw in Revolution, where you got the beat down earlier on in the match, and then next thing you know, it's just pretty much in his head, it just clicks, and then all of a sudden he's just doing just all his moves spectacular moveset, not gonna lie about that. But I just feel like it was just a little bit too similar to what we saw at Revolution. So maybe just a little bit something differently. Maybe we see, I don't know, would be pretty interesting since he is a slow starter. Why not do the opposite and have him be the aggressor of the match and just have him just run over somebody, and then in the end he just gets bored and then he gets beaten like that. I think that'd be really cool.
He gets bored.
I mean,
that would be great. He's just in the middle of beating someone up and then he just shrugs and lays down. The story of this match, though, I mean, Orange Cassidy gets the win. The story of the match, though, is the team up of Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc, and their little rivalry that's brewing between them and the Best Friends. This was kind of one of the things I also think was sort of alluding to the fact that Kip Sabian is probably going to lose later in the night because he had something else going on. Mm-hmm. Is this a team? Is Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc going to be a team? Are we going to need to give them a name, or is this kind of like we've only got a few wrestlers around, let's just pair them up so we can do some tag team stuff?
I think they could be a good team. I'm definitely a little bit more knowledgeable on Jimmy Havoc as I've seen a lot of his matches. As far as Kip Sabian goes, like I mentioned a few weeks ago, I'm not really that familiar with him. So I think this would be a great opportunity for myself and then people like myself who've never seen Kip Sabian to pair up with someone that's a little bit more well known in that aspect and really have them as a team. So opportunity for a team, really good. And I definitely do see the relation. They're both from the United Kingdom. So there's definitely that relationship aspect right there. How they're going to pretty much just make that work, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I definitely do know that their tag team division in AEW is one of the best, if not the best in the world right now. So it definitely would be really cool to just see a lot more teams play up to that. When we never know that this storyline could progress into either Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc or the Best Friends going up to the tag team title contention. So who knows? It'd definitely be a cool opportunity for them to just really get more exposure off of that.
It's funny. I love the whole thing. They're both from the UK because it makes sense. Totally makes sense. But if you were to say to me, hey, Jack, you should team up with this guy. He's also from the Pacific Northwest. I'd be like, I don't care. Who is this guy? What is he? But it makes sense. It's one of those things in wrestling. You go, okay, well, it makes sense. Speaking about where people are from, we had a video with Scorpio Sky of SCU. I just want to say I love these videos that humanize wrestlers. I love the stories about guys who get hurt, but they risk it all to come back. I love these humanizing things. I've said before, I think Scorpio Sky is going to be the AEW heavyweight champion of the world at some point in the future. Did you like the use of Scorpio Sky here in this video?
I definitely did. And what you said was great. It definitely humanizes a lot of these competitors a lot, because normally when you see wrestlers, you always think they're this top guys and just everything. They're just like stout and everything like that. Pretty mean, unapproachable people. But this pretty much just gives another dimension to the characters themselves. I mean, you definitely hear their upbringings. I mean, Scorpio Sky even said it the first thing off the bat was, I am a fan of pro wrestling, which is great because you always want to hear that anyone that you see on TV or anyone that you see anywhere, doesn't matter what profession, they have a passion for the sport, the sport event, whatever you want to call it. You want to have some, I guess, sort of relation to them. If you're a fan of pro wrestling, you hear a professional wrestler saying, "Hey, I've been a fan since day one." It definitely does play into that empathy factor right there. So I think it was really cool.
Yeah, I agree, and because we are running low on time, I want to rattle through a few things. MJF promo was great as always. Love that he used this whole situation to make himself seem even worse. But he said something interesting here. The most important thing had nothing to do with the injury, had nothing to do with everything he said. The one thing that was important is he said he's going to be the next AEW heavyweight champion. I think he's going after Jon Moxley. I think that's the big takeaway from this whole thing. Do you think he's the next contender?
I definitely think he could be so. And I think he might actually use Wardlow to actually soften up Jon Moxley. And then we might see MJF going for the kill.
I agree. And Wardlow had a match as well. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to Alan Angelis, who did great against Kenny Omega in his match. I would love to see more of him. And Lee Johnson did great against Wardlow as well. You had mentioned Wardlow. I got to ask you, though, Josh, this is a big thing before we get into the Elite of the Week. Really important. There was a time when they said that AEW didn't have any big guys, that they were all small, they were all tiny. Now I'm sitting here and I'm looking at, we got Luchasaurus, we got Jake Hager, we got Wardlow, we got Lance Archer, we even got Brody Lee. We got tons of big stakes in the ring. I got to ask you, though, as the muscle man of AfterBuzz TV, if you're building a stable, who do you think is the strongest? Who's the biggest, strongest guy in AEW right now?
I definitely would think, just off of looks, I would definitely have to go with Lance Archer. He's definitely the most imposing out of them. Definitely would put Brody Lee up there in second, or I guess tie. I wouldn't necessarily say second place, but as far as just legitimacy, strength, and everything like that, I'd have to give to Jake Hager because of his MMA background and wrestling background. So there's definitely that as well. If I were to make a stable with big guys, I could potentially see Lance Archer joining up with the Dark Order. I think that'd be really interesting right there.
Ooh, that would be a very terrifying situation. But I don't know. I feel like Wardlow looked really strong. Maybe it's just because he had a good showing against Lee Johnson, who, by the way, all the talent that they brought in to help out, doing an absolute bang up job, doing a great job in presenting themselves and wrestling, and everything they're doing looks really, really good. But as I said, we had to take some time. It's for the final thing. The closers, as we call it. It's called the Elite of the Week. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Elite of the Week, where we count down from number 5 and work our way down to number 1. Starting at number 5, we have Le Champion, Chris Jericho. This guy's not only a great wrestler, he is the color commentator that is making these shows so interesting. He brings life not only to his mic, but you can hear it in Tony Schiavone's as well. Chris Jericho, you're number 5. At number 4, we got Scorpio Sky. I said it before, I'll say it again. He is a future world champion. And that video he did was such a great way to remind us that he is someone we're all rooting for, whether you're in SoCal or abroad. It's all good. We love you, Scorpio. Number 3, Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford came out on the losing end today, but they're still on the list because they're feuding with the best friends. They had Dustin Rhodes involved in things. They were all over the card, and I've got a feeling that Kip Sabian is going to be a big, big deal very, very soon. Number 2, we have Darby Allin. He made it forward in the tournament again today, and he is my pick to win the entire TNT title tournament. So he is doing number 2 things because he is so great. Look at that cool outfit he's got on. That's something I would try to put on and then be like, that doesn't work. It works for him though. Number 1, ladies and gentlemen, it's again Sammy Guevara. Look, you guys, he got talked about in the opener by Cody. He had a match to start the show. He was part of the Bubbly Bunch. He's part of this entire show. He's for weeks. He's in the beginning, he's in the middle, he's in the end. He's stealing scenes left and right. It's time to stop saying he's going to become something big as a part of the inner circle and start saying he is something big. He is the inner circle. Sammy Guevara, you're number 1, and that is why you are the elite of the week. Yay! You know what? The one bummer is Dustin's not in there, and he moved on in the tournament. But I felt like the other guys just deserved it.
I mean, I
Tough
felt like
sometimes.
I mean, I would not disagree with that list. I mean, I felt like those in that top 5 definitely made a bigger impact. I mean, of course, we all love Dustin Rhodes, but then it didn't really make much of an impact, I felt. So,
yeah, fair. I think that's fair. And I think that is about time for us. But before we go, Josh, Alonzo, tell the world where they can find you online.
And before we do that, quick shout out right here, Dang Q, Eric Clark, Joseph Boza. We have Haywood Wong. We got Dylan Matthews, all the usual suspects. Thank you for much for joining us. You guys can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at JOAL323.
And Ryan in the booth, where can they find you?
Where you guys can find me is at Ryan Nilsen _. That's NILSEN _. That is on Instagram and on Twitter, Ryan Nilsen. Please follow Star Wars News, Thursdays, 4 p.m.
And you can find me at jackcfarmer.com as well as at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. You can also check me out on the AEW social media scam every Monday night. This week, we talk about Chris Jericho's Mount Rushmore of wrestling. What's yours, by the way? You can also check me out on the WWE Raw After Show every Monday at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on AfterBuzz TV. You can also check me out now every Thursday at 3 p.m. for Jack and Flobo Wrestle With Your Questions. We take all your questions, whatever they may be, wrestling or not, and we answer them whether we're qualified to or not. It is a fun show. Check it out. And until next time, folks, do your best and be yourself.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.